Dynasty Kings, football by the numbers. Ain't nothing prehistoric about it. It's the fantasy land before time, man. You dig?
And we talking about them analytics.
Yeah, I dig it.
You know them digits, we fit it inside ourselves. But thinking outside of the box when we did it, outside prevails. We got 8 inside of the box, but we finished plenty to tell. So go ahead and plug in the pot and just listen. It's the Dynasty.
What's that?
Velociraptors it takes,
Okay.
dilapidated in a way. Man, it's a rap, no debate. Hey. Breaking it down with a dynasty. Often reside with the pylons be. Often we talking about dynasty. Rocking with read at the times you'll see. Out of the pocket online on me. Too much subjective is not for me. It's not for me. I'm rocking with the dynasty. Dynasty. Locking the lineup and I don't need filming the fables cause finally I got all the facts, no anomaly. Yeah.
Let's get it.
Y'all reaches T-Rex at best. And I don't mean to go flex. I'm a dinosaurus to death. Yeah.
Look, if you dino, you know. Welcome to the Dynasty Kings Fantasy Football Podcast. Jake and Mike, let's ride.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Kings. I'm your host, Mike Valley. You can find me on Twitter at @FF_DirtyMike. You'll notice today I'm without my co-host here, Jake Estes. He's not available today. Just speaking for myself, so I have to apologize. We have to apologize for missing last week's episode and not giving out a proper notification. I'm going to speak for myself here. I work for the Army, so in my job, I might not be available some weeks, kind of last minute, for what I do and what I work for. That's not going to be a permanent thing. That's going to be more like I still got like 2 more months left. So I'm very sorry about having missed last week's episode. Jake's available this week. But don't worry about it. We'll be back and running down for next week. So, just to carry on now. So, I'm going to talk about week 8 here. Just some dynasty thoughts. Just really focusing on dynasty this episode. And I'm going to talk about what to do. As in, are you going to rebuild? Are you out of the playoffs? What to do about your players? Kind of like some tradeaways that you should be trying to like shop out there. Because you should be able to identify now if you're going to make the playoffs or not. So, those like short-term assets, just for example, like Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers is coming back. Darrell Henderson's been amazing this year so far. He's RB1, RB2 every single week. I think you should sell him. I think you can easily get a first for him. And just the thing too is that if you're also a contender, you're not on the other side of the line there. You're clearly in front. Championships last forever. Go ahead and spend that first. Get that championship. Your name's going to be written on your league's trophy forever. Everyone's going to know. Like don't be afraid to spend up to win your championship. So let's get into these NFL thoughts here. So we're going to talk about the first game here, Packers versus Cardinals. The Cardinals finally went down. They were undefeated here. Look, Aaron Rodgers still got it, and he did it being surrounded by pretty much unskilled players besides Aaron Jones. And this is really comforting too, because if you're an Aaron Jones manager and you're worried about Aaron Rodgers leaving next year, like I would feel confident now because you saw this game without like any real pass catchers around. It's a solid defensive squad. Aaron Jones looks like he's ready to go for next year. Like he didn't show any signs of slowing down here. He filled the role pretty well. Volume wasn't a big issue for him. As far as the Cardinals go, Kyler Murray starts off high, kind of going a little slow here. He did this last year too. So a little bit concerned. I don't really know to think much about it besides that. I do want to give out one thought though for Christian Kirk, right? There's a few receivers we'll talk about here pretty soon. They're at the end of their rookie contracts, and they're going to be finding a new home here pretty soon. Christian Kirk has flashed. He's a solid number 3 for this team, but if he can get the money somewhere else, and he has flashed enough where I think he might be able to get the paycheck somewhere else, he could be a nice dynasty, like buy low option for you. We'll go more into that in here in a little bit. The next game we're going to talk about here is the Panthers versus the Falcons. Sam Darnold doesn't look like he's it. He just doesn't, which I really thought he was the first 3 games. So did Jake, I believe. Now it's a little more evident that he kind of wrote his success based off of Christian McCaffrey, which I think is understandable. It's CMC, right? Like he's great. So without CMC in the game, I'm probably benching Sam Darnold and looking for a better option out there. And I guess the Panthers might be shopping for a new option too. I talked about on our last Devy podcast, like players who I think have to stick around. Talk about the quarterback class and how there's like a redemption group and Sam Darnold's in that group. Sam Darnold still due like $20 million. I just don't see the Panthers like throwing him to the side. I mean, he takes a pretty big cap hit, and this quarterback class isn't anything dynamic. So I don't know, like what's the what am I looking for? What's the advantage of starting over for 1 year for a mediocre prospect? But they beat the Falcons. I thought it was a pretty easy win for them. We didn't see Calvin Ridley. He retired from football since he retired. He's taking the season off. We don't know what's happening to him. Our prayers are out there for mental health. Mental health has been a real big thing in the world. It's definitely been brought into light here. Awareness has spread about mental health for like the last, let's say 10 years here. And so I'm pretty glad people are focusing on that. A lot of people struggle with that. There's a lot of unspoken struggles out there. So I'm happy that Calvin Ridley is seeking out the help that he believes he needs. Now that said, Kyle Pitts kind of had a stinker of a game. I think this is going to continue. Calvin Ridley is a very good player. Like he draws coverage away from Kyle Pitts. Now Kyle Pitts is just being focused. I think they double covered Kyle Pitts almost the entire game because the other receiving options there are Tajay Sharp and Russell Gage, and they're nothing special, They're not special. So they just focused down Kyle Pitts, and it became the Cordell Patterson show. So if you have Cordell Patterson, you are a contender. Cordell Patterson is going to be one heck of a buy. He's going to be one heck of an asset for you. If you are a contender, maybe going out there and spending up to get Cordell Patterson. Maybe throw a second out there for him, see if that works. If not, go for a first, because I think Cordell Patterson's like set to go for the rest of the season. Honestly, just set to go. The next game I want to talk about here is going to be the Titans versus the Colts. Now, I think it's funny because I've really noticed it the last 3 weeks that I think Carson Wentz purposely underthrows his receivers. I'm talking about on purpose so that he can draw the foul rather than do the contested catch, right? Because the receiver will have to stop, and the defender's going to run into the back of the receiver, causing a pass interference. I think it's hilarious. I think it's kind of dumb, but that's the sport, and that's how they use the rules to their advantage. During the Cowboys Colts game, Trayvon Diggs caught an underneath pass and definitely made the most of it. Now he tried to do it again one more time, but Carson Wentz actually threw the ball on target and let Michael Pittman go for a score, I believe. But anyway, Carson Wentz is still getting it done. I think he's QB 12 on the year. I don't think that's going to change. Carson Wentz is just going to be a back end 1, high end 2, like week in and week out. And he's looking pretty solid. I think he's going to be the future for the Colts here for a little bit. Now on the Titans side, looks like Derrick Henry's out for the season. And I hope he heals up well. I truly have been a huge Derrick Henry hater for, I don't know, my entire life. But sorry, got distracted here. But I think he's in a different category. I think he's in the Adrian Peterson category, that he's just built different. I truly believe that now. So he's going to come back, and I'm probably going to believe in him next year. Now I wonder, because he's so far ahead in the RB1 category that, let's say the season, the rest of the season goes on, how much half a season production is going to leave him at? Is he going to still be RB 19 in this season? He hasn't played half the games. Anyway, truly amazing guy. I hope he gets better. The next man up for me is Jerry McNichols. Now I know they signed Adrian Peterson, and I talked to Jake before this, our resident Titans fan. AP's really good at securing the ball. He doesn't fumble. So I'm very curious where the splits go. Clearly, I think McNichols has the pass catching work down. McNichols also does have the size as a workhorse back. I believe he was 215. So this is gonna be a hard one. I'm spending probably a good chunk of my fab left over on Jerry McNichols. I think McNichols is now a weekly flex play, along with the rotating injuries of AJ Brown and Julio Jones. AJ Brown's now hitting his stride. He's back to WR1. He looks good. He took a little bit for his knee surgery to come over, but he looks good. So putting fab on McNichols, AP, sure, I'll add AP for $1. I'll pick him up after Wednesdays are through. Now let me just touch a question here real quick. I got Michael Chapp listening in. I am 3rd/5th right now with Herbert, Dalvin, Diggs, Keenan Allen, Pitts, and Hollywood. Would you make any major changes or stay the course? I only see one RB here listed, so I don't know who your second RB is. But yeah, I would. I am in the category of Diggs kind of falling off. I'm not in on Diggs. We'll talk about Buffalo in a little bit here. But Josh Allen's looking like one of those quarterbacks that likes to evenly spread the ball. And I don't see that really changing. Last year it was Diggs and Beasley's show. Dawson Knox is now coming out. They signed Emmanuel Sanders. Beasley's probably on his way out after this contract. But it looks like the Buffalo Bills are getting weapons to Josh Allen and giving him more options. And he's not a one-read quarterback. I mean, he's experienced now. So, yeah, I would look to boost up my wide receiver core. Hollywood Brown, too. Rashad Bateman's in. And Bateman looks great. So I do think Hollywood's production is going to take a hit. And he says Zach Moss is his RB2. So, yeah, I still do believe in Dalvin, but I have Dalvin. My worst team has Dalvin Cook, so I am a little concerned about Dalvin Cook, but you can't move Dalvin. But I would like to move Diggs. I moved Diggs at the start of the season for DK Metcalf. I convinced the DK Metcalf owner that Diggs is gonna have a better year. He's a contender. I'm not, and he's just like, yeah, I'll take that. I also had a handcuff of his that I threw in on the deal at Darrell Williams. He has CEH. And I was like, here, I'll throw in this handcuff. Which, I would never start Darrell Williams, maybe for like a week or two. But those are like the type of throw-ins that get those deals done. So, yeah, I would look for a more solid number one option here. I'm not happy with how Diggs is performing my other teams. And I'm looking to move him. So, so that's into that for me. I would look to boost up your RB2, I don't know, man. That's a solid core, but they're all guys that look like they're more on the downcline. Diggs, Pitts. I mean, Calvin Ridley's not around, so as I said earlier, Pitts is now going to see a lot more double coverage probably because he's the only pass catcher that's really, looking good on the Falcons. And Hollywood Brown, yeah, like I said, Bateman's in town, so you're probably getting into that workload. But I will say this: I'm just going to talk about the Ravens now. They're on bye. Lamar Jackson looks good. The biggest thing against Lamar Jackson was that he's not a good thrower. He had that insane game of 37 for 43, and he looked good passing. And then he had a game after that where he looked like himself, where he's running around more than he's throwing. But the thing is that Lamar Jackson has flashed now that he can be a capable throwing quarterback, which makes me feel good about his longevity in the league. So, yeah, I hope that helps you out there. But I would look to make some major changes if you want to contend. But it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. And that's something I preach all the time, is just to get to the playoffs and then just ride it out. I had one team where I wrote out, it was Jeff Wilson. Like, Jeff Wilson won me the playoffs. Like, who would have thought last year that Jeff Wilson was going to be the guy that wins me the playoffs, wins me the championship? So, I'm going to go back to these teams here. The Colts. Also talking about the Colts. Nyheim Hines looks like to be like a non-factor now. And I have nothing to comment about that. Clearly, he's no longer a flex option. But if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner, I feel good about that. And watching Jonathan Taylor during that overtime drive, he was open for passes. He gets open, he sits in the hole. Jonathan Taylor now looks really good. We were already calling him good before the season started, but now everyone's confident. Everyone's patting each other on the back. We killed it. This guy's the real deal. We all call that correctly. And Pittman looks like the real deal too. Now, I get it. He only runs slants, but that's how Michael Thomas won his success rate, right? Michael Thomas was the number one wide receiver in fantasy ever just based off running slants. So what? Michael Pittman can do it too. So Michael Pittman is producing, and I like Michael Pittman. I called him as a breakout earlier this year, and I would go buy Michael Pittman. I don't think his price is that high. I don't own Michael Pittman, so now I'm trying to think about if I was the owner of Michael Pittman, I'm not listening to offers less than the first, that's for sure. So, anyway, Michael Pittman on the rise. I think his price is pretty low. No one's hyping him up. But if you look at his numbers last 3 weeks, I think it's wide receiver 7, wide receiver 3, wide receiver, I think it was wide receiver 2 this past week. Quick question here from James. Start Saints or Dallas D? Oh my gosh. Let me look at next week's matchups real quick. Dallas against the Broncos. Okay, the Broncos just got Jerry Jeudy back, and then the Saints versus the Falcons. Yeah, I gotta go with the Saints versus the Falcons. Calvin Ridley's out. Now I'm just beating a dead horse here. Calvin Ridley's out. Pitts is probably gonna be double coverage because it's pretty. He's the only skilled pass catcher left that's healthy, and then you oh my gosh, it's Tajay Sharp and Russell Gage. They're not really skilled. So what I'm saying is that the passing game, not really a threat anymore. They just got to cover the running game. And I'm actually looking forward to see the game plan against them. And the Saints, right, playing Saints versus the Falcons. Yeah, the Saints have a top defensive core. Like, they just shut down the Bucs. You know, they've always looked solid. All right, one more question from James. I'm going to get back on topic. Would you trade Godwin and Emmanuel Sanders for Debo, worried about his calf? Debo has always had the skill. So Debo's always been hurt. I'm talking about from high school to college to the NFL. He's always had injury problems. But if Jake was here, he would preach to you about fantasy points per touch and how, who was it? DeAndre Swift led that last year. Well, Debo leads that for wide receivers almost every the last 2 years. So I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is much of a future. I mean, he just has 1 year value. And Godwin, I'm a really big fan of. So that's a tough one, man. And Godwin's a free agent. And I'm not really a believer in Trey Lance. So, like, looking at Debo's future with the 49ers, I mean, his value comes from Jimmy G, and Jimmy G might be done this year too. Because they traded away the future of the 49ers for Trey Lance. So they got to roll with Trey Lance. I mean, like, they have to roll with Trey Lance. I'll probably go Godwin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll probably go Godwin over Debo. I think Godwin's just a great possession receiver. One of the best route runners out there. I feel like he has the safest floor. I mean, he's produced with Tom Brady, Jameis Winston. Those are both nice quarterbacks. Ryan Fitzpatrick too. That's great. The quarterback too. That's a tough one, man. You're really killing me here on this one. I will go with Godwin. I guess, yeah, Debo's injury history does worry me. Having a fantasy roster with a lot of injuries is really frustrating. Have you ever had one of those where it's just like you have 5 guys constantly hurt? Because that's my main dynasty league with my home league. It is so frustrating. So I guess I would go Godwin. I'll go Godwin. And Godwin's got Tom Brady like for the the rest of this year. So I'd be pretty confident rolling him out every single week. The same with Debo. So yeah, let me go with Godwin on that one. All right, let me just keep going with these fantasy thoughts for the rest of these this past weeks here. Bengals versus Jets. Let's talk about Zach Wilson here. Zach Wilson hasn't looked good this year. He's a rookie. Again, they spent high draft capital here. Now, Mike White, people want to say that Mike White is the real deal. You got to push the brakes on that. We have seen backup quarterbacks come in and just absolutely kill it. It's happened in the past. So I am pumping the brakes on Mike White, but if Mike White does it 2 weeks in a row, okay, I'm probably dipping my toes in the water and saying Mike White's the real deal. And Elijah Moore caught 6 for 67, I believe, which I'm really excited about because Elijah Moore gets open. I see him open. He's not really a bust. He's a great buy low candidate. But I am worried about Zach Wilson as a future of that franchise. If he can't take a step forward here into the year or all in the offseason, I am very worried about Zach Wilson and the Jets pass catchers. The Bengals are great. I don't really know. There's not much to say. Jamar Chase is the real deal. If you got him, congrats. If you don't, there's no way you can buy him. I just don't. I own Jamar Chase in like 2 leagues, and I think the best offer I got was like Julio Jones in 3 seconds. Like, no way. Give me Jamar Chase. So, moving on to the Steelers versus the Browns. The Steelers look terrible. They look terrible. Freiermuth looks great. Deontay Johnson looks like his usual self. Najee Harris is just volume filled, and he's great. But as a future of the organization, I am worried. Big Ben's clearly not it. They have to go into a little bit of rebuild. I believe in Mike Tomlinson. Not really much to say about the Steelers. Now the Browns. We heard word today that Odell Beckham's dad put out this 11-minute video of Odell being open and the Browns not throwing it to him. I had this debate with the Campus to Canton guys. A lot of them are based out of Ohio, so they're all huge Baker Mayfield fans. And I'm a New England fan, so we had a debate versus Mac Jones versus Baker Mayfield. I got jumped on for saying Mac Jones is better. They put a poll out, and most people on Twitter think that Mac Jones is a better quarterback, better dynasty asset than Baker Mayfield. So anyway, I don't think Baker Mayfield's coming back. Like I don't think he's ever going to be higher than a mid-range quarterback too. I'm talking about that's his ceiling. So I don't want any part of Baker Mayfield. But if someone values him as having a ceiling higher than a quarterback too, I'm selling. I have one share of Baker Mayfield. I kind of shot them out a little bit after that conversation. So I'm going to reshop him out this week. I'll tell you what, I don't want Baker Mayfield on my rosters. Oh, and Dearness Johnson. He looks great. He's splitting carries with Nick Chubb. He got the touchdown, so he was the better running back for the week. If you want to roll that dice, because you have to, I get it. But that's another trade-away target, maybe. If you're not going to the playoffs, like, you need to sell these short-term value assets like Dearness Johnson. So I don't know what you're looking for him. Obviously, no one would ever pay a first for him. I doubt a second. Maybe you can get him away for like a third. Target that Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt owner, because they can view him as a handcuff, and maybe they pay up for a second. Maybe ask for 2/3. Whatever. Test the waters, but definitely get him off your roster if you're not making the playoffs. He has no value past this year. The Eagles versus the Lions. I am not a Lions fan, but I constantly preach for them every single year. Every single week. They're just that team I want to be successful and root for. Jamal Williams was ruled out, and just similar to the Calvin Ridley and Pitts situation, I believe that Jamal Williams, his presence actually helps DeAndre Swift's value, because I believe that it keeps teams honest on like how to run their defenses, because they don't know which running back's going to get the ball because they each share a workload, kind of like the Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb type of offense, the type of role. This is the first week that Jalen Hurts actually had a stinker in fantasy. Still doesn't look like a good NFL quarterback. Devontae Smith didn't do that well either. I mean, what do you get, Devontae Smith? 1 catch for 15 yards. Look, if you drafted Devontae Smith, he's a Heisman, right? You have high aspirations for who he's going to be as a player. I truly don't see him getting above wide receiver 3 numbers. I just don't see it. Not with Jalen Hurts at the helm. I don't really believe in that coaching staff. I'm worried about everything surrounding Devontae Smith besides Devontae Smith, and I think he's relegated to the slot. Now, I am going to be a dead horse again about the slot receiver role here. Let me just get my notes up for my stats. Yes, okay. Slot receiving targets from the last year, right? Number 1 was Keenan Allen, which was great. Keenan Allen was a top 12 quarterback in the end. Now, number 5, I'm talking about number 5 on slot receiving targets last year was Russell Gage, and he ended up being wide receiver 40 in half PPR. Like, that's not winning you championships, right? And that's the number 5 guy in slot receiver targets. And then you got Keelan Cole at 6. He's not winning you a championship. Greg Ward was at 7 last year. He wasn't winning you a championship. Number 8 was Danny Amendola, who doesn't even have a job this year. So if Devontae Smith is just going to run routes out of the slot, I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about his future. Sure, yeah, I get it. He's very skilled, but I'm talking about he has to get that Keenan Allen type workload to be fantasy relevant. I'm trying to think about who the number 2 is, man. Escape me. I didn't write it down. I wrote down number 3 was Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd was number 3, and he was wide receiver like 16 until Joe Burrow got hurt last year. So, yeah, sure. So I'm just going to end it on Devontae Smith needs to be top 5 in slot receiving targets to become fantasy relevant, and I don't know how that happens with Jalen Hurts at the helm. So he's not a weekly starter for me. I'm not excited about his future. And again, it's not the question of the player. It's the question about the situation. So, and then for running backs there, Kenneth Gainwell is running with the 2s. No one saw that coming. But clearly, you can't start Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, you can't. Like, you can't with confidence, you can't. Like, if you're in a pinch, obviously, you got to start Kenneth Gainwell. But Boston Scott's out here with 2 touchdowns. Just Jordan Howard is out here with 2 touchdowns. So, I'm looking at Boston Scott as the main running back here, and these are like all like undersized. Well, Jordan Howard's not undersized; he's disappointing. Boston Scott's a very small running back. Anyway, I think this team's identity is the run game. Again, it was a game against the Lions, and next week they play. Give me a second. The Chargers, who are also not a good run defense. So yeah, go ahead and fire up Boston Scott, and then Jordan Howard. If you're really ballsy, go ahead and start him up, because Kenneth Gainwell is running with the 2s. And so unless I hear news saying otherwise, Kenneth Gainwell is not in my trust category. And yeah, I'm probably selling Kenneth Gainwell, because again, he's a 5th-round running back. He has PPR value. I play a lot of half PPR, but he's going to be a back-end running back too, like best case scenario for any season. And those guys don't win you championships, and that's kind of what it's about for me. They're fine for like roster fillers, but if you have a really deep roster, where you don't need to start Kenneth Gainwell, I would go ahead and start selling him now for future draft capital, because this class coming up, the 2022 class, is not bad. It's deep. I wouldn't say a lot of them are like first round, like high end value the way we saw this past draft, but there's a lot of really good prospects, and some of these guys that you're going to get in your second round of your rookie drafts are going to hit. So, excuse me. The next one's up is the Rams versus the Texans. The Rams destroyed the Texans. Nothing really to take away here for dynasty reasons. The only thing I want to talk about is Darrell Henderson. He's great. He's averaging, I can't tell you off the top of my head, I forgot. But Darrell Henderson is an RB1 most weeks, or an RB2. He's going to carry a team to a championship. Now, if your roster is not a championship roster, it's time to sell Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers comes back next year. I know there's a lot of stats out there not believing in the Achilles comeback. With not a lot of like solid data behind that, besides like Marlon Mack has like flashed a bit this year to like make you feel good about it. So I'm looking to sell Darrell Henderson. I'm looking for a first. I mean, he's going to carry a team to a championship. I deserve to have that compensation. It's going to be a late first, sure. I'm going to probably ask for more than a first, but Darrell Henderson's on my sell sheet right now, because if I'm 2-6, I'm selling. If I'm 3-5, maybe, like wait one more week, see how you do. But if you're not making the playoffs, absolutely sell Darrell Henderson, because his value next year is going to take a dip. The Texans scored all their points when the Rams put out their second string. Not really much to look forward there. They're not trading Deshaun Watson. I don't know what to tell you about Deshaun Watson. I have him on a few rosters right now. If you're a Deshaun Watson owner, I think you're holding, because you're not going to get the value you want for him. We missed our sell window. That's just it. We missed our sell window for Deshaun Watson. Now you got to wait till the offseason for a little more news, a little more trade hype. That's going to be it for Deshaun Watson. The 49ers, we heard our first ever positive comments about Brandon Ayuk. So that's all I have to say about that. We're going to talk about these second-year wide receivers here pretty soon, so I'll talk about that soon. The Bears, Justin Fields looked great. So hopefully he continues it. My evaluation of Justin Fields going into his final year of college, was that he was a one-read quarterback, and I wasn't excited about him whatsoever. Now, he absolutely turned that around his senior year of college, and he was no longer a one-read quarterback. You saw him actually scanning, doing his progressions downfield. When he came to the NFL, he went back to a one-read quarterback, where he would just stare down his receiver, and he was terrible. So I'm hoping that he is transitioning back to what he was end of college, which he showed here against the 49ers. So that looks great. I know they lost, but I feel better about Justin Fields' future. And Allen Robinson, who's going to be a free agent next year. You can drop him in redraft. I think he's done. As far as dynasty goes, he goes to a new team next year. He's a free agent. Call your shot on him. I don't think I would pay a first for him personally. So see if you can get him for like a second and a third. He's still very talented. He has 2-3 more years left on him. So if you think you're a contender next year, he might be a really nice buy low target now, or you can wait a few weeks. Honestly, I don't think his value is going to go up at all to target him to buy. Khalil Herbert. Sorry, almost forgot about Khalil Herbert. Monty's going to come back. He's going to take over that starting role. I mean, he's their guy. But I do think Khalil Herbert has now proven himself that he deserves a role in this offense. So it might be a split backfield. I don't know what to do about Monty. I don't own a lot of Monty. I think I'd be looking to sell if I had a deep roster. If not, I'm looking for him to assume the role. So anyway, just food for thought. Khalil Herbert has definitely got a role for him in the Bears. I don't know what you're going to do about that, but you have to decide. Now, Khalil Herbert, worst case scenario, has solidified himself as a very high-end handcuff. Kind of like an A.J. Dillon or an Alexander Madison. Now, he is now in that category. Tony Pollard. he is now in that category of very valuable handcuff that, like, if Monty ever goes down again, that Khalil Herbert's going to be a bona fide RB1, RB2 every single week. Whoa. Where are we at? Patriots versus Chargers. The Patriots fan here. The Patriots are like 20-3 against the Chargers the last like 20 years, I think. They just kill the Chargers. It's just great. Mac Jones, you should feel good about Mac Jones. Now, this was probably his lowest passing percentage in the league, and it was against a real secondary too. So this is a real test too. So I thought he looked pretty good. I'm very excited about Mac Jones as a future. I told you that we debated against Campus Cannon about Mac Jones. I think his ceiling is Kirk Cousins. He's a back end, QB1. He doesn't really have that rushing upside. So for him to be anything good, like I'm talking about, like Tom Brady, sure, he's the GOAT, but they're the same style quarterback. So that's really what his true ceiling is. But putting it down to realistic expectations, he's a back end QB1. And I hope next year he has a lot more 300-yard passing games. Hopefully the Patriots beef up that wide receiver core a little more than they are. But as of right now, he looks like the type of quarterback that likes to spread the ball around evenly. So I'm trying to avoid starting Patriot wide receivers unless I have to pick one on like a bye week to play. But for now, and their running back core too. Same thing. They rotate through. I'm not looking to start Ramondre Stevenson. I don't think Ramondre is a league winner. I think all the Patriot running backs have to get hurt for Ramondre to get his shot. I'm not looking forward to it. So, and the Chargers. Mike Williams is hurt now. I was saying this earlier. Mike Williams is injury prone. They are using him differently this year. We talked about that earlier this year, which is great. But now that there is word of injury, the Patriots are really good at shutting down the top option, which they did with Mike Williams. This is just something to keep an eye on. Like he actually could have another stinker next week, and I'm concerned about that. So it looks like Mike Williams might come back down to earth here. Because he's the type of guy where if there's just a little bit of injury news surrounding his knee, it's a very nice indicator telling you that you should back off. And that's just kind of how he has been. That's how he's been historically. Not doubting his talent, saying that his body can't really keep up. And he's a free agent next year too. I assume they re-sign him, but as of right now, they declined his 5th option, so he's a free agent next year. Jags versus Seahawks. Seattle gets Russ back, so pretty excited about that. So DK and Tyler Lockett had both great weeks. The word on the street is that Chris Carson's going to be out for the year, and Alex Collins is going to be the starter for the rest of the year. I don't have much to say about the Seahawks. I'm sorry. No, not really too exciting there. I hope they get a new running back sometime soon. Chris Carson has one more year in his contract. There's really nothing much else to say about him. The Jags. Let me talk about the Jags here. Let me talk about Laviska Shenault. He's been disappointing this year, to say the least. There's been a lot of second-year wide receivers that have been disappointing. We're going to talk about them at the end here. Urban Meyer. I know a lot of people are saying he's not going to keep his job. Adam Gase kept his job for 4 years. I can't Urban Meyer. He has a contract. So let's not throw in the towel too quickly on Urban Meyer. I don't believe in him, but I'm saying that he could stick around. And so you got players like Jamal Agnew getting 12 targets a game. If you're in a deep league, Jamal Agnew, go ahead and add him. But if you're not, I know they have a bye week coming up, and they have a really tough matchup, I think, the week after that. So just somebody to monitor on your waiver wires. But I wouldn't even call him a stash pick right now. I just wouldn't. And James Robinson just escaped injury. So we'll see what happens next week. He might roll out Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde had 8 targets, 6 for 40 yards. He's a volume play. You don't believe in the talent, but since he's like the last man standing, like he might be a nice little waiver wire ad there. Let me talk about James Robinson though. Again, if you're not a contender, it might be time to sell. Travis Etienne comes back next year. I'm a huge disbeliever in Travis Etienne, but I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I wasn't giving you like the full perspective. Travis Etienne is a first-round running back that Urban Meyer selected to be drafted. Not like the last coaching staff, but the current coaching staff. Now, James Robinson's great. I believe in the talent. I love J-Rob. But Travis Etienne's he has to eat into that workload somewhat next year. So if you're not a contender and you can sell James Robinson for a first plus, go ahead and do that. I mean, maybe even ask for a higher price. Maybe ask for J.K. Dobbins. He's on IR. Maybe ask for Cam Akers because he's hurt. Ask for Antonio Gibson, who's been kind of disappointing lately. Like, ask that manager, be like, hey, I got James Robinson. They're in the same class. So sell James Robinson high while you can. I know I'm a big truther. I'd probably rather hold on to him, but I think the safer side is to sell it for a known commodity that you have like confidence of for the future, which you have to call your shot on. I think J.K. Dobbins comes back just fine. I think Antonio Gibson's future is just fine. Cam Akers, again, we don't know because of that Achilles, but yeah, go ahead and flip James Robinson for what you can right now, because these playoffs are coming up. So these temporary assets, their value is spiking. Just another out, Darrell Henderson, James Robinson. Just these are just examples of those guys who need to sell now. The Bucks versus the Saints. The Saints actually shut down the Bucks. They look good. Gronk is back. I don't have anything to say for Dynasty. Chris Godwin is a free agent. The Saints. A beat writer came out saying that Jameis Winston is looking like he's not the future of the Saints. So I don't know. Maybe we see Deshaun Watson with the Saints. Maybe we see Aaron Rodgers with the Saints. Maybe they go for one in the drafts. But the offensive identity of the Saints is changing. Alvin Kamara is getting a little older. I think Alvin Kamara is great, but the fact that he's the only offensive talent that really got to focus down, it creates a problem for like fantasy. So just like how Kyle Pitts is now being easily focused by defenses, same with Alvin Kamara. So his upside is capped. He's going to have his great game, sure, but he's going to have some stinkers too, the way he has been lately this year compared to his past. Washington versus the Broncos. Jerry Jeudy's back. I do believe in Teddy Bridgewater to be good enough at quarterback. Von Miller's gone, so it looks like. Excuse me. It looks like the Broncos are really set for the future here. They got 3 seconds coming up. I think they have like 5 in the next 2 years. Anyway, exciting for the Broncos. And Melvin Gordon too. Melvin Gordon leaves pretty soon. So here's a trade target. It's Javonte Williams. He's not going to be great until Melvin Gordon leaves, and Melvin Gordon's not leaving until the end of the year. So maybe you flip James Robinson and Darrell Henderson for Javonte. Maybe you throw in a third. How often do thirds work out as top fantasy assets? It's not often. They haven't, but it's not often. So focus on switching some of these assets that have a short-term value for somebody like Javonte, who's stumbled a little bit. I shouldn't even say stumbled. His upside has been capped because he's sharing the workload, but he's going to have the full workload next year. Cowboys versus Vikings. Cooper Rush looked great. Vikings look bad. I don't understand why they can't stay consistent. I don't get it. KJ Osborne is the number 3 there. Me and Jake have talked about it a few times. Go ahead and add KJ Osborne, right? Yeah. Adam Thielen's getting old. Someone's got to step up. Now, I also want to talk about Tyler Conklin. I'm going to draw a connection here to last year's Dalton Schultz, right? Dalton Schultz stepped up when Blake Jarwin went down and started the season to a ACL injury. It was a really bad one. And he ran away with the show. And now Dalton Schultz is a top 5 tight end right now. He looks great. I'm wondering how he does with Michael Gallup because, Michael Gallup is back. Michael Gallup's been gone. Dalton Schultz kind of broke out. If Dalton Schultz can keep up his production with Michael Gallup back in the rotation, I'm all in on Dalton Schultz. And Michael Gallup is gone this year. Michael Gallup is very similar to Christian Kirk, where he's flashed enough where he might be a nice buy low to see if he gets a solid role next year. Like maybe he's goes to the Patriots, who don't really have a good wide receiver core, So, or the Jags. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. These players are flashed. Their contracts coming up. They're in a crowded wide receiver core. They're going to leave this crowded room, maybe go to an empty one. The Dolphins too. Anyway, the possibilities are out there. These free agent targets can be they can change the landscape of your roster. Now, so Tyler Conklin, just like Dalton Schultz, is what I'm saying, is that he's establishing himself. He was number 5 in routes run this past week. So if Tyler Conklin can come out the way Dalton Schultz did, and then he comes out next year and now he's the next Dalton Schultz, go ahead and stash this guy in the back end of your roster. I mean, he could be honestly a future stud. I'm stashing in a lot of places. I'm pretty excited about it. Elite tight ends are hard to come by. I think this past week he was 5 for 57. Anyway, Adam Thielen's not going to stay immortal. He's 31 years old. Justin Jefferson, sure, yeah, he's number one there. He's solidified. Like there's no arguing that, no debate there. But the number 2 guy is going to be KJ Osborne or Tyler Conklin when I shouldn't say when, but when Adam Thielen goes down and when Adam Thielen leaves the team because he's 31 years old. The number 2 option in that team is very wide open. And right now it's looking like Conklin or KJ Osborne. The last thing to talk about here is the Chiefs versus the Giants. I saw a stat from Next Gen Stats that Patrick Mahomes, every single completion he had was behind the line of scrimmage, and it was like the first time that's ever happened. And all of his yards came from behind the line of scrimmage, runs from the receivers behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know what's up with Patrick Mahomes. I could not tell you. It looks like defenses have figured him out. They keep a third safety deep now, and they have no run game. And I don't think CEH is the solution to the run game. He definitely helps, like for sure. He definitely helps the run game out. But now with CEH out, teams aren't defending the run against the Chiefs because that O-line is not great. I called that at the start of the year. What's really important to an offensive line is not those PFF grades. It's continuity. It's those teams that keep the same offensive line each year. The Colts, the Patriots, they always have the same guys. The Patriots love paying the offensive linemen. The Cowboys, they keep the same guys every year. Continuity for offensive lines is the biggest underrated stat I think there is out there. So the Chiefs are not great. Not looking forward to the Chiefs. And next year, Patrick Mahomes, $45 million a year, kicks in. So I don't know how they're going to fill in these gaps. I believe it's not confirmed, right? This is not a fact, but I believe the cap goes up $20 million next year. But Patrick Mahomes is going for 7 or 8 mil right now, and he's going up to 45 mil a year. So again, just hammering this down. I don't know how the Chiefs are going to fill their gaps in their roster besides just using draft picks. And I think that's how they have to be superb in drafting out the next 9 years to fill in their roster. Otherwise, it's going to be more of what we're watching right now, which, it's not great. I'm not, who would have thought the Chiefs looked like this? And no one would have guessed this last year. I think they're favored to return to the Super Bowl against the Bucs. So I'm worried about Mahomes. I'm not worried about Mahomes' talent. It looks like the team needs a new offensive identity. They need to work something else out. I'm sure they'll figure it out eventually because they have a really great coaching staff. But as of right now, they're flopping. They're flopping. Mahomes doesn't look good. That offense doesn't look good. Kelsey has been quiet. Tyreek Hill has been quiet. I had Tyreek Hill as wide receiver 1 this year at the start of the year. But it looks like that third safety up top on the defense is what's doing it. So, kudos to defensive coordinators to figure that out. Those guys are great. The Giants. Daniel Jones looks like an okay quarterback. He's going to keep his job. I'm calling him right now. He's getting re-signed. I don't think he's great at being a quarterback, but again, I keep talking about this class coming up. These guys aren't great. These guys aren't like this past class. There's definitely prospects I like, but I don't know. What I'm saying is that Daniel Jones keep his job because I think he's better than the options coming out. And the Giants, just like the Dolphins, have a constant injury problem where these receivers can't stay healthy. Kenny Galladay can't stay healthy. He wasn't healthy last year. Kadarius Toney can't stay on the field. Sterling Shepard never could stay on the field. Evan Ingram can't stay on the field. I think he's a free agent this next year. His name's always around draft buzz. So, yeah, anyway. Daniel Jones looks like he's a real quarterback. He just needs to have a better supporting cast. Saquon Barkley always hurt too. Whatever. As far as Dynasty goes, I don't know. I'm not buying any of these guys. Kadarius Toney could be interesting if he could stay healthy, but as of right now, honestly, Kadarius Toney looks like Deebo Samuel to me. Deebo Samuel is really, really prolific right now, but like I said, they always have this injury history. Drawing a blank. Kadarius Toney, his thing in college was he was electric in open space. He couldn't be caught. He was really shifty. and he excelled when he got the ball in his hands in open space. That's the same thing as Deebo Samuel. They're both yak monsters, right? They're not the savviest route runners, but they know how to read a zone, and that's kind of how the defenses are now trending in this year in the NFL. So I like Tony. I'm gonna say, yeah, I like Tony as a future asset. I'm not sure what I'd pay for him. I wouldn't pay a first. Probably try to get him for like an early third, like late second if I'm a contender. But gosh, I don't know, man. That's a hard one. That's your call. But yeah, he looks like a Deebo Samuel type player to me. So if he can figure out the health problem, then I think he'll be electric, because I don't think the rest of the Kenny Galladay's got a history of injuries. Sterling Shepard's got an injury history. Tony was healthy his whole senior year of college, the last year he played. So hopefully next year he can figure it out, or sometime soon. But Tony looks like he's trending up. Let's just leave it at that. All right. Went through all the teams. I want to talk about these first, second, third year wide receivers. That's what I want to focus on this last 15 minutes here. I want to talk about this big dip in the second year wide receivers, right? Ayuk has been disappointing. Shenault has been disappointing. Jefferson took a step back. That was kind of expected, though, because his rookie season was just insane. That you knew defenses were going to game plan for him. So pushing that one to the side, I don't really care that he took a small step back. But Ayuk and Shenault, Matt Harmon, big fan of him, is saying that, Ayuk is taking more of a Tyler Lockett career path. And the talent's there. I do believe in Ayuk. But I am concerned about the situation. He came out with these backup quarterbacks. Kittle was always hurt. Deebo was always hurt. So you have to wonder if his success came out of just a volume standpoint. Now let's say that it is, right? Let's just say that his success only came when Kittle and Deebo were out and these backup quarterbacks were in. These defenses could have game planned for that. They should have. He's the only one that they really need to worry about in that offense, because it's Jeff Wilson and Brandon Ayuk, two guys that nobody really cared about starting the season. So the talent is there. That's what I'm trying to say. If he can produce with these backup quarterbacks, if he can produce when he's the only pass catcher that they really need to focus down, the talent is there. So I don't understand why it's not there this year. And so I'm not hopeful for next year. I'm not on the Trey Lance train. I'm sorry, I never was preseason. So that's probably one of the reasons why. So yeah, I think Ayuk is talented, but I'm not seeing in the near future. But just like Tyler Lockett wasn't successful for 3 years in a row. I think he was wide receiver 50 plus for 3 years. So if you're an Ayuk owner, I don't know what offers you're getting. I don't have Ayuk on any team. I was sitting out offers preseason. Very excited, and none of them got accepted. I was offering Jerry Jeudy straight up. I offered Stephon Diggs for Ayuk and Javonte. Those are some examples of trades I offered. So I don't know. Would you sell him for an early second? That's on you. I would never sell him for less than a second. That's for sure. Someone might try to have you throw him in on a trade. Again, those are your calls. But if you have the patience to wait for Ayuk for 4 years to be productive, hats off to you. I can't do that. I'm so impatient. That's not me. But these dips, for second-year wide receivers, they're not common. This strong of a dip is not common. Chase Claypool is another one. I have no confidence in Chase Claypool. Again, he's a deep threat, physical guy. I honestly kind of want to compliment to DK Metcalf a bit in his skill set. But Big Ben is not Russell Wilson. And I don't know if the quarterback they're going to get next year is going to be similar to Russell Wilson. But just like Deebo, I believe in the talent. I just don't believe in the situation. I don't know who the quarterback is next year. I don't know who their offensive line is going to be. So maybe in your trades of I'm trading away James Robinson, maybe ask for Chase Claypool plus a first. Something like that. These guys need to be. You can ask these guys to be throw-ins on your short-term trades, right? Yeah. So that's what I want to say about these year one. So like let's just look at year two wide receivers, right? The year three, right? So we got DK Metcalf. He didn't take a big sophomore year dip. He's been great ever since. AJ Brown too, no sophomore year dip. Number 3 in that class is Terry McLaurin. He always performed in his sophomore year, so he didn't take a dip either. Deontay Johnson, big step up his sophomore year. Like he's great too. All 4 of these guys you would be so happy with on your roster. The 5th wide receiver right now for ADP is DJ Chark. Now DJ Chark had like half a season of high touchdown and production. So I'm just calling his success a fluke. He has injury problems now. I'm not really in on him anyway. But after that, you got Michael Gallup, Marquise Brown, Mecole Hardman, Jacoby Myers, and I'm gonna stop the list there because everyone else after that is just ridiculous. The point is, what I'm trying to say is that these sophomore year dips that we're seeing right now with this class, this was a prolific, an amazing rookie class. But I am very concerned about this sophomore year dip, and I don't know if they can come back from this because I haven't seen it historically. We have. I've seen the entire Lockett. Sure, it took 4 years. You can be that patient. That's great. But these sophomore dips are very concerning, and so I think I'm ready to throw in the towel. I am. I'm ready to throw in the towel. There's too many question marks revolving around it. That if somebody still values these guys as like first round picks, I'm getting out. I'm hitting the reset button. So that's my advice to you. Sell Shenault for a first. Sell Chase Claypool for a first. Sell Brandon Ayuk for a first if you can. Like I am very concerned about this sophomore year dip. I just look at this 3rd year. And okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and look at the 4th year wide receivers too while we're at it. How about that? 4th year wide receivers. Okay. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. Okay, sorry. Let's just stay back on topic. Let's talk about these rookies now. These rookies, right? We have Ja'Marr Chase. He's great. Everything's advertised. Moving on. The next ones are Waddle, Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Terrence Marshall. Now, I will say this. All 4 of these guys get open. So you should feel fine holding on to these guys. We're a little spoiled from last year. We hope these guys could have taken off like last year's class. It's not going to happen. But I'm absolutely not like throwing in the towel on these guys, but I am the sophomore year players that are dipping because these guys are open. Zach Wilson hasn't really done much for his pass catchers, but Mike White comes in and Elijah Moore catches 6 for 67. I'm cool with that as a rookie. That's all right. Devontae Smith, he's flashed a little bit to make me feel good about him. I'm just waiting for them to fix their quarterback situation in Philly. Waddle's been great. Waddle's a big volume guy, a lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. But again, as a rookie, he's flashed enough to make you feel good about it. Sure, some ups and downs. That's fine. It's a rookie season. Consistency is not like a rookie thing. But all 4 of these guys have gotten open. I am worried about Terrence Marshall. Now let me say why. Sam Darnold's there. Sam Darnold doesn't look like he knows what to do when Christian McCaffrey's not there. Plus, they signed Robbie Anderson to an extension, and they have not signed DJ Moore yet to an extension. I assume they do. So, the possibility that Terrence Marshall is the number 3 guy there for the next 2-3 years while they have to figure out a quarterback situation doesn't make me feel good. So for the right offer, I am selling Terrence Marshall. I really am. Maybe I'm adding him into like trades. Like I am. Like let's say I'm like, I'm giving James Robinson plus Terrence for J.K. Dobbins. That sounds like an overpay when I say it out loud. But anyway, I'm using these guys as like the rookie value, like they're still the shiny new toy, as the add-in. I mean, there's no other pass catchers to talk about in this class. Rondale Moore, sure. He's going to be the number 2 to D-Hop for the next like 3 years. Christian Kirk is still there. A.T. Green is still there. It's a really crowded field. But he's flashed enough for you not to feel like he's a waste of time. So, his value hasn't gone anywhere. But man, I don't know what these guys' ceilings are. I don't. Rondale Moore's not an out wide type of guy. So again, like as I talked about slot targets earlier, they're not that valuable. He has to hit that like Keenan Allen type workload to be a top target. So if somebody wants to overpay for Rondale Moore, like let's say a first, I think I'm good to flip it for a first. There's a lot more alphas coming out this year. And I know like some people are probably thinking I'm calling it quits too early on these players, because I've seen that argument for like Elijah Moore and Michael Carter. I'm absolutely selling Michael Carter, by the way, but this is how football is. I care about size. Size matters. Yeah, that's how it is. These year 3 guys. Let's talk about these year 3 guys. I listed them off earlier this year. I don't see their value going anywhere besides up. They're all pretty young for the most part. Like obviously they're all like 25 and younger. Terry McLaurin being the oldest one. Maybe try to flip these year 2 guys for these year 3 guys. Because like no one's thinking DK Metcalf's value might go down. Terry McLaurin's value might go down. Deontay Johnson's value might go down. Nobody's thinking that. So while these second year guys are still holding value because they're name, it's time to sell. You don't want to hold on to them so they don't have value anymore. Like Denzel Mims, right? Denzel Mims he's toast. Who wants Denzel Mims on their roster anymore? So, and then, so I guess the lesson for today is knowing when to get out. And again, you should be able to identify if your team is moving on to the playoffs this year or not, and you need to move these short-term assets around. Second-year wide receivers, the Michael Carters, the Elijah Mitchells, Jeff Wilson's coming back. Kyle Shanahan is very loyal to his guys being the guy, and Jeff Wilson's definitely one of his guys. So I am worried about Elijah Mitchell long-term. And what's to stop them from adding more running backs to this committee next year? It's a revolving door there, and Elijah Mitchell could be a championship winner. Like, go ahead and trade him out there for a first, And then the same thing for Michael Carter. Michael Carter was a 4th-round draft pick. So was LaMichael P. Ryan last year. Now, I get it, LaMichael P. Ryan was from the last coaching regime. So, again, the current coaching staff has no loyalty to this guy whatsoever. But Michael Carter got a lot of dump-off pass from Mike White. I think he was 9 for 9, right? 9 for 9 for 95 yards and a touchdown. What's stopping the Colts from figuring that out? Because these Colts are going to be watching tape. Like, it's a good defense. So if these Colts don't figure out Mike White, then yeah, once again, I'm kind of more in on the Jets. But if they do figure out the Jets, which is what I'm thinking that they do, I'm looking to move on from Michael Carter. If somebody thinks Michael Carter is going to be an RB1 or they can win a championship with Michael Carter, I'm selling. Sell him for a first. Go ahead. Be like, hey, he's the RB1 of the Jets. He's a rookie. He's a shiny new toy. You probably spent a second on him last year. Go ahead and grab yourself a first. I think that concludes my show for today, guys. That's going to be it. Go ahead and ask any questions you want in the chat right now. I already answered a few earlier. Yeah, so again, just keep saying this theme over and over again. You should be able to know right now if you're making the playoffs or not. If you're a fringe playoff team. I wouldn't go on a buying spree of players. I just wouldn't. Because if you don't make that line, like let's say somebody else's team just starts taking off, it's not even your team doing bad. Let's just say everyone else just keeps winning in front of you and they're not losing. You just sold like a mid-first or a mid-second, and those things have value. But if you're not a playoff contender, go ahead and sell those short-term assets. Sell those aging players. Sell Adam Thielen. He's 31 years old. Sell Elijah Mitchell. He might be a 1-year rental. Michael Carter might be a 1-year rental. Sell Darrell Henderson. He might be a 1-year rental because Cam Akers is coming back. Devontae Freeman, I guess, for the Ravens. These guys that only have value for the year, sell them. Sell them now. Do it. All right, guys, that's it. Have a good night.